Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk to you about is the Atlanta Travel Bible. This is going to kind of give you some do's and don'ts and places that you should go should you decide to visit the great city of Atlanta. As many of you know, or maybe you don't know, I am a resident of Atlanta. I've lived here since 1997. While it is not the place that I'm from or where I was born, it's home. And I've called it home since 1997. People will tell you that, I'm a resident. And I guess I am to some degree, but, I still love the place. But it's not, if you ask me where I'm from, I'm going to tell you I'm from Florence, South Carolina, because that's where I grew up. Nonetheless, I came to this idea on the heels of my brother, fellow podcaster, my man 30 Grand, Baylor the Great. You know him, you love him. He's been on this podcast before. He's got two podcasts, one called Open Run with BTG and the other BTG for President, Baylor the Great for President. And here recently, he just dropped an episode called the LA Travel Bible. And in that episode, he gave you a lot of good tidbits as to where to go, what to do and what not to do, what to wear, because, what you wear in LA is very important and it has nothing to do with the weather. If you know, you know. But he did a great job as far as explaining, how you travel about LA. And I love the episode. For one, Baylor's my boy. That's my brother. But number two, I love the city of LA. LA might be like my second favorite city behind New York City, and it's not even close. It's one of the most beautiful places that I think you could go and be. It's quite expensive, but it's a good time. And the same can be said for my adopted hometown of Atlanta, GA. It is a great place to visit. It's a great place to live. As I mentioned, I've been here since 1997. I had no idea when I moved here, July 24th, 1997. I had no idea that I would still be here this long. I had no idea that I would plant my flag here, if you will, and, get married and have kids and this become my, my hometown. And this is where I've lived. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. So, this is home, and it has been for the past 27 years. So I wanted to, do the same thing that Baylor did, but just remix it in the sense of tell you about the city that I'm in. First and foremost, obviously, at the time of this recording, we're coming into the summertime. And Atlanta's a great place to be in the summertime. One thing I will tell you, if you come to Atlanta, particularly during the summertime, it's going to be hot. It's going to be extremely hot. So there's really no need to complain about the heat or the humidity because it's there. It's there and it's never going anywhere. I mean, it's just hot. It's the way that I describe the heat is no different than someone from Buffalo would describe the cold. You just kind of get used to it. And for as long as I've been here, I don't like the heat. But I deal with it. I deal with it as a son of the South. Again, I grew up in Florence, South Carolina. So Florence wasn't that much cooler than Atlanta as far as heat is concerned. In fact, Florence may be hotter. But yeah, if you're coming here during the summertime, it's definitely hot. So, dress accordingly. Now, naturally, when people come here, they want to eat because there are quite a few really, really good restaurants that you can eat And they're sprinkled. It really just depends on where you are in the city, what part of town you're in, and where you want to go as far as food. I will say this much, and I will piggyback off something that Baylor said in his episode, and I think it's very apropos. Sometimes when you want to get really, really good food, it may involve a little danger. Like you may have to go to a dangerous part of the city to get some really, really good food. Case in point, just last week at the time of this recording, I went to a place to get some wings because I'd heard about it, and I'm a big wing guy. I'd heard about this place, and I heard the food was really, really dope, and the atmosphere was crazy. The place is called the Bando, right? And so the Bando was supposed to be like this restaurant / museum / entertainment place where you go and you get your food. But when you walk inside, there was like artifacts honoring the city, and then there's graffiti and stuff on the wall, and it looked like in parts of it, it looked like a trap house, if you will. And so I'd seen it. It's been here for a couple of years, and I never had a chance to go there and get some food. So it was one day I was chilling. I was like, you know what? I want some lunch. I'm going to go to the Bando. Now, here's the thing. The Bando isn't anywhere near where I live, right? In fact, it's on the other side of the city. So Baylor, you talked about geographic, so I'm going to kind of paint the same picture. I live on the east side, right? I live on the east side of Atlanta, and the Bando's on the west side. And listen, I got no problem with the west side. I don't, for as long as I've been here, I don't go to the west side a lot. The most time I spend on the west side of the city of Atlanta is at the airport, which is where the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport is located. Other than that, I don't really frequent the west side. I did when I was coaching Little League football, when we would go over to the west side to play teams and stuff like that. But I'm grown. I don't know. I know some people that live over there, but I don't go to the west side. Anyway, so I pull up the directions to the Bando, and the Bando is located on Martin Luther King Drive, west side. That was a caution flag for me because MLK is Atlanta. He's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King is from the city of Atlanta, probably its most famous and favorite son. Obviously, the civil rights movement was huge back in the day here in this city. And a lot of it was because of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That being said, MLK Drive is, it could be dangerous. And so as I get off the intersection, as I get off the interstate and I'm driving down MLK, the area, the area around, as I was getting closer and closer to the Bando, the area just got a little bleaker and bleaker and, kind of grim. And it didn't help the fact that it was raining that particular day. So, nonetheless, I pull up. Well, actually, before I pulled up, there was an apartment complex on the left-hand side that was abandoned. And there was big signs that says abandoned, do not trespass. And I'm like, wow, you just got an abandoned building right here, right on the middle of the street. And so I was like, okay. So I go to the Bando. I pull up. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. You can see the picture here. The Bando, all of the windows had been broken out and it's boarded up. And I'm like, I really could not tell from sitting inside my car. I took a picture because I wanted to send it to the homies. I sent it to the homie King Germ. Shout out to King Germ. And I wasn't sure if the place was even open because when I did a Google search, it said it opens at 11 a.m. But it didn't, the place looked abandoned. I mean, like, I know it's called the Bando, but it's not called the abandoned. And so I'm really contemplating, should I even get out of my car? And there's another car that pulls up real fast behind me. And, looking to see what they're doing, and they get out and they walk up to the door and they walk inside. I'm like, oh, okay, so the place is open, but it still looks deserted, right? And so I go in, I get out the car, I go inside, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to sit down here, even though the windows and everything are boarded up, I'm going to go in here and sit down in this place and have a nice meal, have some great wings, right? Wrong. When I walk in, there are no tables, there are no chairs, there's nothing. There's 3 separate rooms, and there's absolutely no artifacts. There's no representation of Atlanta. All you see is graffiti on the walls, which is what they had before. But it dawned on me that, hey, somebody broke into this place and they stole everything. And so I'm like, I can't even get the experience of enjoying these wings and sitting down and having a nice lunch by myself because there's no place to sit. It was all takeout. And the music was loud. I mean, like the music was at club level loud, like to the point when I made my order, I had to yell, I want 6 wings, lemon pepper. And so I make my order and I'm disappointed. Had I not come all the way from the east side, I probably would not have ordered. I probably would have just turned around and left. But I wanted to see how the wings were. And I figured, I was like, hey, you drove that far. So, and you're really kind of risking things because, I got a decent car. I mean, it ain't a Bentley, but, I got a decent car, and my car's parked outside and I don't want anybody trying to take my car. But I place my order, get my order, and the order is about, I don't know, for 12 wings. It was 12 wings, fries, and a drink. The drink was called crack juice. Yeah, the drink was called crack juice. And they put what they call crack on the wings. This white powdery substance. It wasn't crack for real, but it was, it was a very sweet, very tasty substance. Pause. I think that's pause worthy. But here's the thing. So I get my order and the order is like $25. I mean, which is a lot for 12 wings with fries and a drink. I mean, you're pushing. I know we're in a recession, but damn. Nonetheless, I get my order and I get to the car and I'm like, okay, well, I might as well, because I was thinking of like, maybe I should go someplace else and eat it, but it's rainy, it's wet outside. I'm like, no, I'll just eat them in the car. So I start eating it. Now, I'm not going to sit in the parking lot and eat these wings because you don't want to do that. Again, this ain't the most safest of neighborhoods, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just drive back home and I'll be able to finish all the food by the time I get home because, again, it's way on the other side on the west side and I live way on the other side on the east side. It took me at least 45 minutes to get there, right? And so here's the funny part. The wings and the fries were incredible. Great food. I would highly recommend it. The only thing is there's no place to sit because somebody robbed the place. At least that's what I can assume. I don't know that. Maybe I guess I could Google it and find out, and I don't know necessarily if they got robbed that would be in the on the website. But yeah, takeout is the only thing you can get. So I was a little disappointed in that, but the food was incredible. 9 out of 10 wings. I loved it. I would go back, but I only want to go back and be able to sit down. Hopefully the next time I go back, they'll have some furniture and some tables and some chairs and some of the artifacts and everything else that represents the city of Atlanta and hip hop. Hopefully they'll have that stuff like they did before, but I could only assume that I couldn't even say that they were renovating because all of the windows were boarded up. I mean, all of them. So that led me to believe that somebody broke in there. So like Baylor said, much like in LA, some of the places that you go to get food, you could be risking, your safety, but, as long as you don't look like an out of towner, you'll be fine. But yeah, sometimes you have to go to the hood or hood adjacent spot to get some great food. I think that goes for wings, whether or not you're going to get wings. Barbecue is great in this city. And even some of the good or high end restaurants, if you want to get a good steak, those are in, pretty nice areas. But you still have to be very mindful of the fact that when you walk out of that restaurant, you got to walk to your car probably, or you get valet. You want to stay on the main streets. Don't turn down the side streets. The side streets are where stuff really jumps off at, and you don't want to be where something jumps off at. Entertainment. Entertainment is big in this city. A lot of people tend to call Atlanta Black Hollywood. I've heard that term for the last 20 years, and it fits. I mean, Atlanta is definitely a place where you can get some entertainment. I'll be honest. I'm 52 years old. I don't do clubs. I haven't been to a club in years, but I could tell you I have stories about, Club Visions, Club 112, where the players dwell or used to dwell. So I've got great club stories, but my clubbing days are long gone. But the nightlife in the city is cool. But I will say this much. You can find pretty much nightlife and entertainment for whatever your age range is. Now, here's the thing. If you're my age and you're an unc or an auntie, don't go to the young people's clubs. Like, you shouldn't be at, what's the name of that club? Club Esso. Is Club Esso still around? I'm not even sure if Esso's still around. But if Esso's still around, you don't need to be at Club Esso. You're too old for Club Esso. Club Esso literally was jumping in 1999. It ain't jumping for somebody 50 years old in 2025. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. It's just not. It's probably jumping for somebody who was born in 1999. Definitely not somebody who was, just kind of finding their way. But nah, it's whatever you make it. So I would definitely recommend, if you're going to hang out in the city, be mindful of where you are. There are certain sections of the city, that Edgewood area in East Atlanta, I wouldn't mess with it, because normally when stuff pops off, it pops off there, because you got a little bit of space and a lot of people, and tensions are normally running really, really high. If I'm not mistaken, the homie, rest in peace, King Von, rapper, I think that's where he was killed at. Yeah, I'm too old for that. I'm really out of that age group area over there. That would be some place where my sons probably would party. But yeah, Edgewood, that area. Buckhead used to be a thing many, many years ago. I think the most you can do in Buckhead now is shop. You could shop, or you could go to a bar and get a drink, but it's not like the old Buckhead. The old Buckhead died years ago, and we know what happened there. But yeah, if you want to, frequent clubs and stuff like that, there's plenty of them. The nightlife, the night scene the great thing I always say about the nightlife here is that there's something to do for everybody every single night. If you want to party on a Sunday night, you can find a groove, a spot where you can kick it at on some cool out shit, or you can find a spot where you could turn up at if you're 35, 25, or 55. Atlanta has that spot for you every single night. That's one of the things that I loved about the nightlife, particularly as I was growing here in this city, is that there's something to do every night for somebody who's trying to do something. If you ain't trying to do nothing, then that's cool too. But if you're trying to get out and see and feel the city and let the city feel you, trust me, there's plenty to do. And then also, it goes without saying that, and I don't think I'm overstepping my boundary in saying this, I think that Atlanta just might be the black strip club capital of the world. So if you're into the shoe show, as we call it, because they're not stripping, those ladies are simply modeling shoes. If you're into the shoe show, come to Atlanta. You won't be disappointed. I promise you, particularly if you're into black women. White Club, I can't tell you what they do with the Cheetah. I heard the Cheetah's good. And rumor has it that they have really good food in these strip clubs. There will be a strip club podcast about the food in the strip clubs. That's coming soon, so stay tuned for that. The downside to being in Atlanta when it comes to the nightlife, if you're someone who likes to hang out, is parking. You're going to pay for parking no matter where you go. The only place where you probably don't pay for parking in this city is the church. And I'm not even sure about that, because there are probably some churches that charge for parking. But if you're going to the grocery store and if you're going to a gas station, you're going to pay for parking in some shape or form. The thing I always tell people about parking, even though it's frustrating to pay for parking, you want to make sure that you park someplace where your car is safe. Because there's no worse feeling than going inside an event, coming back out only to find that your car has either been towed or you have a boot on it. And those things are very expensive to take care of. I've seen booting companies literally watch patrons go into an event or an arena or whatever the case may be. And as soon as they hit the door, they come out there and they boot the car. So you want to be mindful of that. Be mindful of where you park. That could be the difference between you having a great night and a bad night. Baylor talked about Airbnb and hotels on his podcast as well. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Airbnbs in this city because I have a house here, right? So I do know that they exist. I do know that they're pretty popular all across the city. Now, we've got some great hotels. Some of the best hotels are downtown. I've stayed in some nice hotels downtown. I think particularly when there's a sporting event going on or something like that, those hotels downtown are the best because they can handle large crowds and they do very well as far as customer service. For the most part, most of them do. Another thing that you're going to have to guard against, you really don't have much of a choice, because those hotels are downtown. And if let's say you come in town for a game or something like that, let's just say the college football national championship game is being played here and you come for the game, right? And your school, let's say Southern Cal is playing in the national championship game and you're a Southern Cal alum or you're a fan of Southern Cal, you stay downtown. If you're in a car, you're going to have to park your car in that particular hotel parking lot. You can't park it anywhere else around because you run the risk of it being stolen. Now, there are a bunch of parking decks and a bunch of parking lots around everywhere in Atlanta, especially downtown. However, you have to be very careful about where you park, because if you don't park in the right spot, you will get your car towed. They don't play. This city makes a ton of money off of towing cars that are parked illegally or parked places where they aren't supposed to be. I don't like it, but if I'm staying at the Four Seasons, you got to park in the Four Seasons parking lot. Don't you try to park outside the Four Seasons parking lot. you won't have your car when you go outside. And unfortunately, this city grew so fast that a lot of the things around the city didn't change. Just the buildings came and the people came, but the people who were there first didn't change. So what I mean by that is, because you could have these high-rise condos and these high-rise hotels, you can walk 2 blocks and be in Crackhead Central. So don't get it twisted. Parking on the street is just not a good idea. I don't care who you are. So yeah, I do remember one of my first hotel events that happened was before I actually even moved to Atlanta. Me and my boy Jay Fresh, shout out to Jay Fresh. We came here. Jay Fresh and I moved here in '97, and we got a a townhouse in Marietta, which is in the northern suburb. But here's the thing: before we got here, we had to kind of figure out where we're going to live, and we were going to look at some apartments. And so before we looked at the apartments, we found a hotel just to stay in for the weekend or whatever like that. And so we found this hotel, and the hotel was literally right off of Interstate 20. And we didn't know, because this was our first time, venturing here and trying to find something. We didn't realize that the hotel that we picked was like a hotel that was a motel that was pretty much run by prostitutes. And so I remember we got here like on a Friday, and then like we got in and we were sitting down chilling, and I was like, well, I'm gonna take a little nap or whatever, because I was tired from the drive or whatever. And we were both we came from South Carolina, and Jay Fresh, he said, okay, I'm gonna step outside. And this was a true motel, because like when you step outside of your room, you're outside in the element. You're outside literally. And I heard Jay Fresh say, I heard his voice. I was like kind of falling in and out of sleep, and I heard him say, nah, I'm cool. And the next thing I know, he comes in the room and he closes the door. He turns the lights off, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, hey man, there's a pimp. He's trying to send one of his women up here for us. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He said, man, the dude was just like, hey, I'm gonna send old girl up there for y'all, welcome y'all to Atlanta. And he was like, man, he's like, just be quiet. So we were literally in the room hiding from a pimp named Slickback. And his trick was knocking on the door, trying to get us to open the door. Funny thing. But yeah, it's anything can happen. So, and that was a hotel that wasn't downtown. So I would encourage you, if you come to the city, stay downtown or stay like in the perimeter area, Dunwoody, something like that. The further you venture out into the suburbs, the more likely it is that you will run into some shenanigans. And then obviously there's always tourist attractions here. A lot of things you can do. You can do like Six Flags over Georgia, which is on the west side. I mentioned Dr. King earlier. You got the King Center, beautiful place, very, very much historic. You've got the African American Museum downtown as well. The World of Coke, a place that I've never been. As many of you know, Coca-Cola is headquartered here in the city of Atlanta. All of my kids have been to the World of Coke several times. I've never been. It's a huge tourist attraction. I just never had the desire to go. And you go do the tour, and it shows you how they make Coca-Cola and all of this other stuff. I just never been something that I wanted to see. I will say my favorite tourist attraction in the city is the Georgia Aquarium. Baylor, I'm a huge fan of the aquarium. Listen, I've actually gone to the Georgia Aquarium by myself. Like that place is so dope. I love aquariums. It's one of the largest aquariums in the world. And I will literally go by myself and not take the kids or anything like that. That place is huge. I always have a good time when I go there. It is a sight to see. And I mentioned earlier, we got the Benz. The Benz is Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's where the Atlanta Falcons play. During football season, you could catch an Atlanta Falcons game, or you can catch, sometimes a college football game there. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a beautiful stadium. It's located right in the center of downtown. Football fans love that place. It has got the cheapest concession stands in all of sports. I mean, like you literally a soft drink is like $2. Hot dog is like $3, and a hamburger I think is like $3. Like, shout out to Arthur Blank, owner of the Atlanta Falcons. He said that one thing he wanted to do was make that concessions, available. And I think beers are like $7. Like it is by far the cheapest concession stand that you will find in any stadium in pro sports. But it's a beautiful stadium. It's great. And when the weather is nice and it's not cold or anything like that, it has a opening. They open the roof, and that's why they call it the bins, because they drop the top on the bins, and you can actually enjoy the game inside, but technically outside. But it's great during football season. And also, speaking of college football, the College Football Hall of Fame, which is like 2 blocks away from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If you're a college football fan, that place is beautiful. You definitely want to check that out. All in all, man, there's a lot of stuff to see in this city. Atlanta is Black Hollywood. It is a lot of things. I will say this, and I say this all the time. What you see on TV about Atlanta ain't all Atlanta. I mean, like the housewives who aren't really wives, but that's another story for another day. That's not really Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta is a city, and it's a place that is, still growing. I came here on the heels of the 1996 Olympics, and it's a beautiful place. It's as dangerous as any other major metropolitan city. You want to be careful about where you go, and even as a tourist, you don't want to look like a tourist. Like I don't mind going to other cities. I actually love going to other cities, but the thing is, I try not to look like a tourist while I'm being a tourist. Meaning, like, if I'm in LA, you're not going to catch me standing in front of the Watts Tower taking pictures. I may drive past the Watts Tower. I may snap a flick as I'm driving past the Watts Tower. But me standing out in front of the Watts Tower lets everybody in that neighborhood know he ain't from here. And the thing that you want to do is, when in Rome, act as the Romans do. But it's a beautiful city. And again, if you're coming here, definitely hit me up. I can't tell you that I will be your personal tour guide, but I can tell you where to go. And that's the thing Baylor talked about on his podcast as well. It ain't even about checking in, because that's something totally different. And, the thing that you got to make sure that you do, and it doesn't matter if you're in LA or New York or Atlanta or Cleveland, be where you're supposed to be. I'm not going to Chicago and going to O Block. I don't know anybody in O Block. I'm not going to LA and going to the Nickerson Gardens. I don't know anybody in Nickerson Gardens. There's no reason for me to go to Nickerson Gardens unless I'm going to get me a hamburger. And even in that, I would get my hamburger and get the hell out of Nickerson Gardens. So it's like, be where you're supposed to be. Don't be playing these away games. I think that's how out-of-towners get caught up in a lot of BS. Be where you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do, and enjoy yourselves. And again, this is the city that was deemed too busy to hate. I don't necessarily know if that's true, but Atlanta's a good time. And if you come here, you will have a good time. I can almost guarantee you that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes of the 12 Kyle Podcast every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. If you're on social media, check us out, 12 Kyle Podcast, all across the board. If you are on YouTube, we want you to tap into the YouTube channel, 12 Kyle Podcast, like and subscribe and share it with your friends. We also have a new baby. It is called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is a music podcast where we talk about rap, soul, hip hop, and R&B from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. Simply put, it is the best music podcast that you've never heard. So check it out. And if you want to contribute to the podcast financially, hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. Click the link in the description box and you can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts. hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.